and all we really need to do is add an index for the thing to come back in about 1/10 of a second, and he got about 40% of his box back almost instantly simply by adding an index to a tool which really wasn't even all that big. It was only a few 100,000 rows. But it was being hit continually. And it's not so much what's taking the most elapsed time as most elapsed time and how often is it running. Because if this elapsed time query is running once a day, it doesn't matter if it's running once a millisecond. It matters a lot. So hopefully I've given you a useful set of answers as opposed to a really specific answer.
He asks, isn't there an impact on using SPSysmon on MDA tables?
Sure, exactly what's being asked there. There's certainly an impact on Sysmon. I've had people tell me that the MDA tables enabled a lot of overhead on their system. Part of it does depend on what it is you're monitoring. If, for example, you're monitoring all the query plans and bringing it all back in your production system, that's going to suck up a lot of resources. If you limit yourself to picking up the statements that are running and a few other critical components, keep in mind that the pipes that you set up within the MDA tables at setup time control what you're collecting. You don't have to collect everything.
User asks, the problem with SPSysmon and the one is to use clear option. This appears to be a pain since it would with the MDA collection. Have you run into this problem?
I'm interested in knowing what the version of Sybase is that you're running and what platform you've got. Useful for everybody on the call if you could just let us know what your version and platform is. Bugs that I can avoid.
See, 10. While we're that, what we see SQL text is going for a table scan for a huge records, with just for creating the index. What locking schema?
I'm not sure exactly where the question is there, but yeah, if your table, generally you want an index to support the query. I think the question is asking what type of index should I use and does the locking scheme make a difference? Maybe time to redo that indexing talk that we started this whole thing out with Dan several months ago.
That's right.
There really isn't a short answer. I do about 2.5 hours on index selection between table index selection and join index selection. And of course, a non-clustered decision is more than just a very simple pick one. If you don't have any other indexes on your table, I generally recommend using a clustered index. Flip side is if you're going to be indexing on a sequential key, then you may end up creating a hot spot that you're not expecting. So it's hard to give that as a generic performance and tuning answer. Does scheme make a difference? Make a difference, but not enough of a difference to say I will or will not go with clustered or non-clustered.
Another viewer asks how to plot tables without being per object statistics active turned on.
I haven't had to answer that one before. That's how I would typically pick that up. Or again, I'd let a tool pick that up for me because then I just go and look at the results as opposed to figuring out how to have to track it. If I have to track it, I would the MDA tables. If that seems to be intrusive, then I would track it for a short period of time and then turn it off and then analyze the results I've collected.
Okay. Follow up on our question before, it was version 0.2 on AIX 5.3 64-bit.
Thank you. So Sysmon was creating problems with it. Okay. for providing that, and everybody on AIX, please take note.
Okay, I think we have just a couple more here. Cut us off when we need to. But the rest, what is the best repository of the full MDA table queries?
What is the best?
Where is the best repository of the most useful MDA table queries?
In the question, it sounds like what tables do I want to look at first, which are those two tables that we had listed earlier. When I have a repository, I'm generally thinking of a place to put the output of those tables to keep them for long term. In which case, I'll stick them in another database on another server if I've got the ability to do that. And the reasons I like a tool, because generally a tool will collect the information and put it in a database on another server so that we're as unintrusive as possible on the current one. If you want to clarify the question, I kind of like I'm answering the question that you're asking. So if you want to clarify that, I'll be happy to take on a follow-up.
I think he's asking if there's a website link.
Link to what?
I'm not sure. I'll follow up via email on that question. We can dig in a little bit more on the details of that. Another user asks, is there any specific parameters you recommend to monitor for query involving proxy table?
Gosh, that is that I've been having to resolve in the last several months on more than one occasion. And the short answer is no, I haven't gone into MDA tables for that. There is a presentation available on the Sybase website. It's called something along the lines of Top 10 Reasons for Developers to Upgrade to Sybase 15. And in there is a section on tuning CIS queries, which is probably the only place I've seen information on tuning CIS queries. That information I'm happy to copy and paste and send on to you. If you send me an email, jeff.garbus@mlogica.com. Am I on here someplace? There we are. Ask me for the CIS info. I'll be very happy to forward that on to you.
So what are the implications of running multiple monitors? That's the MDA tables.
Well, it sounds like you're working too hard to start with. I'm not to have things hitting the server more than once if possible. It should make a huge deal of difference, because if different processes are queuing the MDA tables, they should each be able to pick off whatever hasn't popped off the top of the stack. I mean, the MDA tables themselves have a limited amount of space, and once you exceed space, it's a first in, first out queue. But you have a single process and you're repeatedly querying that table, you're only going to get what's there, but if two different people query it, both get the entire subset of information. So aside from the expert on the server having to do this multiple times, there's impact, but I haven't benchmarking that, and that's a shouldn't, not a doesn't.
Okay, and I think we'll take one more question here. Do you have scripts which can graph for trends across multiple SPSysmon outputs, fast checks?
I have any that I carry around. A lot of shops that I've been at do have similar types of things. What I will typically do is go and just take SPSysmon outputs from critical periods, and I'll just go through the whole thing line by line. And yes, that is a time-consuming process. When I've done that, I take a half a step back and I say, you know, this is a snapshot. Let's see if this is continual. So the components that I see in there that I want to look at, I'll manually do a grep and pick up a much larger time period, a much broader time period, to see if it's a spike or if it is a trend. Again, I like tools for that as opposed to visual graphics or scripts, and I tend to write them on the fly if I need them, or pick up what's there at the top.
Jeff, there were questions we didn't get to here. I just want to remind everyone, you can feel free to email me or Jeff specific questions. mLogica do provide a full team of consultants, both Jeff and his team under him. We'll be addressing some of these things as well. And we have, Jeff, you can flash our LinkedIn group as well, monitored by our team, and questions will be answered there. So join that LinkedIn group. I'm part of that if we don't have it readily accessible. If you're joining today, again, feel free to email us for anything, any unanswered questions or any follow-up you need. Our next webcast will be on September 15th. We'll be going through some of the performance and managing, remote performance and management. I think we'll be digging into some of these tools a little bit more on that. Thank you everyone for coming today. I want to thank Jeff for speaking, and hey to everyone.